Okay, everyone, so Arrow has officially ended at this point in time. It's been about a week since the series finale, which is kind of crazy to think about considering how long I've watched the show and how, like, I don't know, I think it's been going on since I just started high school, so I've definitely been a fan of the show, been a fan of some the main characters and stuff like that for such a long time. So I thought I'd talk about the ending of the entire series. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of a bittersweet moment because it went out on a really good note. I liked most a good chunk of the last season, and I think it was very well done. And I really liked the finale, which usually it's not the case. A lot of the time, there are things that you just don't like in finales, and you can't really please everyone in those scenarios. But I do think that this finale overall was really, really good, and there were very few things that I didn't enjoy. And it was mainly stuff that I just didn't like, certain characters that I don't like in general. So yeah, beyond that, I loved the episode. So apart from a few characters that I don't like based off my own opinions and stuff, everything else was great. So yeah, let's talk about it. So the first thing is the whole opening that we have with the scene from back in season 2, where we have Moira, Thea, and Oliver being held by Slade. And if, by the way, at this point, if you haven't seen any of this, spoilers clearly, but yeah, if you haven't seen the show, I mean, it's kind of late at this point, so you're already here. So anyway, yeah, so this whole scene and kind of showing basically the same scene up until the end, where they have Oliver stop Slade and Moira's not dead. And then they switch over to present day, and Moira talking about how Oliver is now dead in a documentary. I thought that was really, really cool and a nice way to bring her character back. And it was kind of a gateway to show that Oliver's sacrifice in Crisis kind of had a huge impact, and people that were dead are now alive, and he's kind of saved a lot of people's lives. So yeah, that's really, really cool, and I love that the entire world pretty much knows that Oliver sacrificed himself to save the universe, basically. So yeah, that was wonderful to know, because usually in these types of situations, especially in crossovers on television or even in comic books, most people don't understand or don't know exactly what has happened in these big events. So they're kind of just what's going on? Oh, I guess this person died, whatever else. So it was really cool to kind of show that Oliver has now been recognized as a true hero for saving the entire world. Yeah, so that was really cool. Yeah. From there, I kind of also want to talk about the characters that are back for this episode, mainly Quentin, Moira, you have Thea, you have Roy. I think that's about it. Oh, and you have Felicity. They all came back, so I thought that was really cool that a lot of the characters that either died previously or have kind of moved on from the show decided to come back. Even the guy who plays Ragman came back, even though he wasn't really even a huge character. But it was nice to see all these different characters return for the final send-off of the show. And specifically, for the whole operation where they had to find William, who had been taken and kidnapped and stuff like that. I didn't like that entire part of the story, but I thought it was cool to kind of see the different dynamics, kind of where Mad Dog kind of realizes that, oh, I am pretty much a lot more like Oliver than I thought. That's kind of why we didn't get along. I thought that was a really cool moment. And kind of just Roy and Thea interacting with one another. But the one thing I didn't like with this is Roy and Thea actually getting married at the end. I thought it was kind of yes, I wanted this to happen, but also they haven't been series regulars, and they were estranged at that point. So they weren't in a relationship. They had broken up. They hadn't seen each other in forever. So kind of felt a little bit like they rushed it a bit. So I would have probably preferred that they got back together and it kind of alluded to them maybe tying the knot at some point in the future. But I do understand why they did it. I wish that they had them more in this season together. That way it would actually make a little bit more sense story-wise than it being like the first time they see each other again, like a day later they're engaged. And again, I did want these characters to get together. I think they were really well in the early seasons of Arrow, so it was nice to see. I just wish there was a little more of them like rekindling their relationship, and just being around each other more before this finale. So that's the only thing I'll say with that, though overall I did like that they did get back together. Also with Roy, his mechanical arm looks really, really dope. This is something I was really excited for when his arm got cut off. So yeah, that was really cool to see. It didn't look bad at all. It looked actually pretty well done, so I liked that. Yeah, the other one thing that I didn't like is kind of just Mia's presence in the episode. I just don't like her as a character. She didn't really work. She was just kind of pretending to be Oliver half the time, and then not having the same issue that got resolved, and then bringing it back up episode after episode after episode. So it didn't really work for me, and her being in this episode, it just felt like it was more for setting up her spin-off TV show that I hope doesn't get more than one season if it does get picked up. I don't think it's been picked up at this point. I could be wrong, but yeah, I just don't like her character all that much. There really isn't much there. She basically acts like Oliver, even though she wasn't raised like by Oliver, so her mannerisms don't really make much sense to me. And she doesn't really seem like a threat, and she definitely doesn't seem deserving of the title of Green Arrow. I do wish that either Roy or Thea or someone else, or even Emiko, held on to that mantle. And I think it's solely because she is in the spin-off TV show. With that, also with spin-off things, Laurel being Earth 2 Laurel, even the showrunners said that if there was no spinoff, Earth 1 Laurel would have been back. And that just kind of sucks to me that it's more for setup for another show than actually tying up these characters and having a great ending. But beyond those like two things, it was pretty much like just a really good and solid finale. It's just everything that had to do with the next iteration of Green Arrow like a new Green Arrow series that I don't think it's going to be nearly as good, and then the whole parallel with William having been captured in the spin-off episode and him being kidnapped in the present day, it was just kind of weird. And then Mia interacting with past selves, like past people who, like, she's basically editing their timeline. It just all kind of felt a little weird to me. Yeah, so we're going to see if that has any more impact on the future when we come back to it. But that was like the only issues that I had with it. The best moments for me was pretty much everything with Diggle, everything with Quentin. I love Quentin's character. I love him. So I'm very happy that he was back in the episode. I loved the episode that he was brought back for earlier in the season. So loved everything with both those characters and their send-offs to Oliver, both of them respectively. Like, they made perfect sense for those characters, and the relationships that they had with Oliver, and it kind of went through how they changed over time. So yeah, that was just beautifully done. Those two speeches were just great. That being said, I also loved the reveal of the statue of Oliver. Again, with the spin-off, it kind of lessened the impact of the statue. I think pretty much everything with the spin-off lessened the amazingness of this season, as well as the greatness of the finale. It kind of gave that away. So that's, again, one of the only gripes, is everything with the spin-off kind of screwed over the episode, but beyond that, it was really, really well done. Yeah, so those two speeches were actually some of, like, the best parts emotionally in the entire show. But the greatest payoff, in my opinion, is the Green Lantern ring falling to Earth at the very end of the episode, and John Diggle finally being hinted at as becoming a Green Lantern. We knew he was John Stewart from last season, where you had his stepdad being having the last name of Stewart. Forget what his first name was, but he was like a military man, and they just didn't have a great relationship, so that's why he goes by Diggle. But I thought that overall was really, really well done. Yeah, so it was like a huge hint for the future of his character, and I do really hope that he continues in the Green Lantern TV show that's supposedly going to come to HBO Max. I think it would be a really cool continuation for the character, and HBO Max will have like a much better budget than the CW does, so they could really, really do justice to the show. And to those characters, because Green Lantern is one of my favorite characters, like close to the Flash, the Hulk, characters like that have a huge history, huge mythology around them, and there's just so much detail in those characters and how they were crafted over the years. So yeah, Green Lantern is one that I think could be amazing if done correctly. So I have huge hope for that show. The last thing I will say is the whole parallels, or not even the parallels. I didn't really like the parallels, but the return of the season 1 methodology of the show, where they have flashbacks to season 1 this time around, with Oliver just cutting through people, like killing them. It was really, really cool to see, because it was like kind of a huge juxtaposition from where he was and where he is now, and it kind of compounds the growth that he's shown over like the past 7 years or so. I think the show's been going on for more than that, but it's 7 seasons, so it was really nice to see that. And then the relationship as well, like specifically the relationship with him and Diggle, seeing it back in its kind of infancy, and then hearing John talk about him, about Oliver being his brother, and all of that stuff at the very end. I loved it. So yeah, if you guys were fans of Arrow, whether or not you dropped off later on or not, what are your thoughts about the show ending? Have you watched the finale? If you did, what did you think? And how did you like how Oliver went out? Did you like the statue of Oliver? I think it looked really, really accurate. And do you guys think that the spin-off show is going to be good? Do you want to see the Green Lantern show? Just let me know what you guys are excited for in the future, and what you enjoyed about this episode. Yeah, it's really weird to see that Arrow is done, because I've just known about the show for such a long time. So, yeah, bittersweet moment. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.